Everyone wanted something from the Mafia Boss. But the waitress was the first person who wanted nothing from him. Adrian Blackwood had heard countless requests throughout his life. People asked for opportunities, favors, protection, and connections. In his world, every conversation usually had a hidden purpose. Every smile came with an expectation. Every kind word often carried a reason behind it. That was why the simple question he asked one rainy evening would change the way he saw people forever. The city of New York was glowing beneath the evening lights when Adrian stepped into one of Manhattan's most exclusive restaurants. At 43 years old, he was known as a man who could influence powerful decisions without raising his voice. His reputation entered the room before he did. Guests noticed his arrival. Employees became more careful with their words. People treated him differently because they knew his name. But Adrian had grown tired of living in a world where everyone seemed to see his position before they saw him. That night, he did not want another expensive dinner or another conversation filled with empty compliments. He simply wanted a quiet moment away from the pressure surrounding him. Behind the elegant dining room, Olivia Carter moved between tables with a calm professionalism that stood out in a place where appearances mattered. She was 29 years old, a black waitress who had learned how to remain invisible in rooms full of important people. She knew how to serve with a smile, how to handle difficult moments with patience, and how to treat every customer with the same respect. Unlike others in the restaurant, Olivia did not change her attitude when Adrian sat at her table. She did not become nervous. She did not try to impress him. She simply greeted him, offered the menu, and asked what he would like to order. Adrian noticed. It was unusual. During the meal, he watched quietly as Olivia helped an elderly guest find a more comfortable seat and assisted a new employee who looked overwhelmed. She did these things without expecting recognition. She did not look around to see who was watching. She simply cared. When Olivia returned to check on Adrian, he asked a question that surprised even himself. "Tell me something," he said. "If you could have anything you wanted in the world, what would you ask for?" Olivia paused. Most people would have answered quickly. They might have mentioned money, luxury, or a better life. But she looked down for a moment, thinking carefully. Adrian expected a simple answer. He expected a dream connected to wealth. Instead, Olivia gave him a response that made him stop listening to everything else around him. Her answer was not about status. It was not about becoming someone different. It revealed a heart shaped by responsibility, sacrifice, and quiet strength. For the first time in a long time, Adrian Blackwood was not interested in what someone wanted from him. He was interested in understanding why someone like Olivia wanted so little for herself. And that single question would become the beginning of a story neither of them expected. The answer Olivia Carter gave that evening stayed in Adrian Blackwood's mind long after he left the restaurant. It was not because her dream was impossible. It was because it was so simple, so honest, and so different from everything he had heard before. Adrian had spent years surrounded by people who measured every opportunity by what they could gain. Yet Olivia had looked at one of the most powerful men in New York and spoken about something far more meaningful than wealth. For the first time in a long time, Adrian found himself curious about a person instead of a transaction. The next morning, Adrian returned to his office overlooking the city. The room was filled with everything that represented success. Expensive furniture, important documents, and reminders of the influence he had built over the years surrounded him. But his thoughts were not focused on business. They were focused on the waitress who had answered his question without hesitation. Adrian asked his assistant to gather some basic information about Olivia. He did not want rumors or opinions. He wanted facts. What he discovered surprised him. Olivia had been working long hours at the restaurant while quietly supporting her family. She had spent years taking extra shifts, not because she wanted sympathy, but because she believed responsibility was something a person carried with dignity. She had never complained publicly. She had never used her struggles to gain attention. She simply continued moving forward. Adrian looked through the information in silence. He was used to people making their problems known because they wanted something from him. Olivia was different. She carried her difficulties quietly while still finding ways to help others. That was something money could not buy. Later that week, Adrian returned to the restaurant. He wanted to understand the person behind the answer he could not forget. When Olivia approached his table, she greeted him the same way she had before. No special treatment. No nervous reaction. Just genuine professionalism. "You are back," she said with a small smile. Adrian nodded. I wanted to ask you something else. Olivia placed the menu down and listened. Why did you choose that answer the other night? Adrian asked. Olivia looked thoughtful. Because most people ask for things they think will change how others see them, she replied. But I think the most important things are the ones that help you stay true to yourself. Adrian remained quiet. Those words affected him more than he expected. In his world, people often chased recognition. They wanted others to see their success. Olivia wanted something different. She wanted stability, peace, and the ability to take care of the people she loved. That evening, Adrian noticed small details he had overlooked before. He saw how Olivia remembered customers' preferences. He saw how she encouraged co-workers who were having difficult days. He saw how she treated people with respect regardless of their position. The qualities that made her remarkable were not visible in expensive clothing or impressive titles. They were visible in her actions. Adrian had built his life around understanding people's motivations. He believed he could recognize ambition, loyalty, and deception easily. But Olivia challenged that belief. She reminded him that some of the strongest people were not the ones demanding attention. They were the ones quietly doing what was right when nobody was watching. And for Adrian Blackwood, that realization was only the beginning. The more Adrian Blackwood learned about Olivia Carter, the more he realized that her story was not about what she lacked. It was about everything she carried without allowing the world to change who she was. For someone who had built his life around power and influence, Adrian found that Olivia represented something completely unfamiliar. She had strength without needing control. She had confidence without needing approval. And she had kindness without expecting anything in return. A few days after their conversation, Adrian returned to the restaurant again. This time, he did not come because he needed a quiet place away from his responsibilities. He came because he wanted to understand someone who had challenged the way he viewed people. When Olivia saw him enter, she simply greeted him with the same calm professionalism as before. She did not treat him like an important figure. She treated him like a person. Adrian noticed how rare that had become in his life. During his visit, he watched the small moments that most people ignored. He saw Olivia patiently help a customer who was confused about the menu. He saw her encourage a new employee who was nervous during a busy evening. He saw her quietly fix mistakes that others left behind without looking for praise. None of these actions were dramatic. There was no audience applauding her. No one was giving her recognition. Yet Adrian found himself paying attention to every detail. Because those details revealed who Olivia truly was. Later that evening, Adrian asked her about her life outside the restaurant. Olivia hesitated at first. She was not someone who enjoyed talking about her struggles. She believed people should be valued for who they were, not for the difficulties they had experienced. But eventually, she shared small pieces of her story. She talked about growing up in a family where everyone worked hard to support each other. She talked about learning responsibility at a young age. She talked about dreams she had put aside because helping her family came first. Adrian listened carefully. In his world, people often talked about sacrifice as something impressive only when it came from someone powerful. Olivia showed him that sacrifice could also exist quietly in everyday life. You know, Adrian said, most people would use their situation to ask for help. Olivia smiled gently. Maybe, but I think help means more when it comes from respect, not because someone feels sorry for you. Those words stayed with Adrian. He realized that Olivia did not see herself as someone waiting to be rescued. She saw herself as someone building a life with dignity, one decision at a time. That difference changed everything. Adrian had always believed money was the strongest tool in the world. It opened doors, solved problems, and created opportunities. But Olivia reminded him that some things could not be purchased. Trust, character, self-respect. As the days passed, Adrian found himself thinking less about what he could offer Olivia and more about what he could learn from her. She had entered his world as someone almost invisible to everyone around him. But slowly, she became the person who made him question everything he thought he understood about strength. And Adrian Blackwood was beginning to realize that the person standing quietly in the background might have been the one person who saw the truth all along. Adrian Blackwood had spent years believing that the most valuable things in life were the things people could see. Success was measured by influence. Respect was measured by reputation. Achievement was measured by the size of what someone had built. But every conversation with Olivia Carter quietly challenged those beliefs. She never tried to impress him. She never asked about his wealth or his position. She simply treated him with the same honesty she gave everyone else. And that was exactly what made her impossible for him to ignore. One evening, Adrian sat in his office reviewing business reports when he found himself distracted by a simple thought. He had spent so much time studying people who wanted something from him that he had forgotten how rare it was to meet someone who wanted nothing at all. Olivia had no reason to flatter him, no reason to pretend. Yet she continued to show kindness even when nobody important was watching. That realization stayed with him. The next week, Adrian visited the restaurant during one of its busiest evenings. He wanted to see if the person he admired in quiet moments was the same when life became difficult. The restaurant was filled with customers, conversations, and constant movement. Olivia moved through the room with patience and focus. A customer complained about a small mistake, and instead of becoming defensive, she calmly solved the problem. A coworker looked overwhelmed, and Olivia offered encouragement without making the person feel embarrassed. Adrian watched from a distance, realizing that her character did not change depending on who was watching. That was something he rarely saw. Later, when the restaurant became quieter, Adrian approached her. "How do you stay so calm?" he asked. Olivia looked surprised by the question. "I suppose I learned that anger does not make difficult moments easier," she replied. "People are usually carrying something you cannot see." Adrian thought about those words. In his world, people often reacted based on advantage and strategy. Olivia reacted based on understanding. She saw people as individuals before she saw their circumstances. That evening, Adrian learned more about the challenges Olivia faced. She was still supporting her family. She was still working long hours. She was still saving for a future that seemed far away. But what surprised Adrian most was that Olivia did not speak about her life with bitterness. She spoke with gratitude for the things she had and determination for the things she hoped to achieve. "You have every reason to be angry at the world," Adrian said quietly. Olivia smiled. "Maybe, but I do not want my difficult moments to decide who I become." Those words reached deeper than Adrian expected. He had spent his entire life protecting himself from disappointment by becoming colder and more careful. Olivia had experienced her own challenges, yet she had chosen compassion instead of resentment. For the first time, Adrian wondered if the person who seemed to have less had actually gained something far more valuable. As he left the restaurant that night, he looked back at Olivia continuing her work. She was still just a waitress in the eyes of many people around her. But to Adrian Blackwood, she had become something much more significant. She was proof that true strength was not always found in power. Sometimes, it was found in the quiet courage of someone who refused to lose their kindness. The days that followed changed something inside Adrian Blackwood that even he could not explain. He had spent years believing that understanding people meant knowing what they wanted. He studied conversations, decisions, and relationships with the same careful attention he gave to business. But Olivia Carter had shown him that some people could not be measured by ambition or personal gain. She was different because her actions remained the same whether anyone noticed or not. One quiet afternoon, Adrian found himself thinking about the question he had asked her that first night. "What do you want most?" At the time, he expected an answer connected to money or opportunity. Instead, Olivia had revealed something much deeper. She wanted stability. She wanted to support her family. She wanted a chance to build a better future without losing the values that made her who she was. Adrian realized that for someone who had access to almost anything, he understood very little about what truly mattered. That evening, Adrian returned to the restaurant earlier than usual. The dining room was calm, with soft music playing and warm lights reflecting across the tables. Olivia approached him with the same professional smile she always wore. "You are becoming a regular customer," she said lightly. Adrian smiled slightly. "Maybe I enjoy the food." Olivia looked at him with a knowing expression. "Or maybe you enjoy asking questions." For a moment, Adrian was surprised. He was used to people being careful around him. But Olivia spoke naturally, without fear or hesitation. That simple honesty reminded him why he kept returning. During their conversation, Adrian asked about her dreams. Not her responsibilities. Not her problems. Her dreams. Olivia became quiet for a moment. It was a question she was not used to hearing. Most people asked what she needed. Few people asked what she hoped for. "I would like to create a place where people feel welcome," she finally said. "A place where someone having a difficult day can walk in and feel respected." Adrian listened carefully. It was not the answer he expected. She was not dreaming about luxury or attention. She was dreaming about creating comfort for others. That stayed with him. Later that night, Adrian sat in his office and thought about the contrast between his world and Olivia's. He had built businesses, gained influence, and surrounded himself with people who knew his name. Yet Olivia, who had far fewer resources, had built something he could not buy. She had earned the trust of people simply by treating them well. Adrian knew he wanted to help her, but for the first time in his life, he questioned how to offer support without making someone feel small. He did not want to become another person who looked at Olivia and saw only someone who needed saving. He wanted her to know that someone finally recognized her effort. The next morning, Adrian made a decision. It was not a business decision. It was not a transaction. It was a gesture of respect. He arranged something that represented opportunity, not obligation. Something that would give Olivia a choice instead of taking away her independence. As the morning sunlight entered the city, a simple package began its journey toward the woman who had unknowingly changed the way Adrian Blackwood saw the world. And when Olivia opened it, she would discover that the question she answered honestly had created a moment she never expected. The package arrived at Olivia Carter's apartment on a quiet morning, long before she expected anything unusual to happen. It was placed carefully at her door with no explanation, no dramatic announcement, and no indication of who had sent it. Olivia looked at the simple box for a moment, wondering if there had been a mistake. She was not someone who received unexpected gifts, especially from people with the kind of influence Adrian Blackwood carried. Her first instinct was not excitement. It was caution. Olivia had learned through experience that some gestures came with hidden expectations. She slowly opened the package and found a small card inside along with a letter. The letter was short and carefully written. There were no demands, no conditions, and no request for anything in return. It simply explained that someone had noticed how much responsibility she carried and wanted to give her a chance to make her dreams easier to reach. Inside the package was a black card that represented access to opportunities most people could only imagine. Olivia stared at it quietly. She understood the value of what was in front of her, but what mattered more was the question behind it. Why had someone chosen to do this? Across the city, Adrian Blackwood sat in his office, looking out at the streets below. He knew Olivia might misunderstand the gesture. He knew she might think he was trying to solve her problems with money. But that was not his intention. For the first time in his life, Adrian was trying to help someone without expecting influence, loyalty, or recognition in return. He wanted Olivia to have a choice. When Olivia arrived at the restaurant that afternoon, Adrian noticed immediately that something was different. She approached his table with the black card in her hand. Her expression was respectful but serious. "Was this from you?" she asked. Adrian looked at the card and nodded. "Yes." Olivia placed it carefully on the table. "I appreciate the thought, but I cannot accept something like this without understanding why." Adrian was surprised. Most people would have accepted the opportunity without hesitation. But Olivia was not interested in what the card represented. She was interested in the meaning behind it. "Because you helped me?" Adrian asked. Olivia shook her head gently. "Because I do not want kindness to become something that makes me feel less capable." Her words caught Adrian off guard. He had expected gratitude. He had not expected wisdom. Olivia continued, "I am thankful that someone noticed me, but I also want to be respected for what I can do, not only for what I have struggled through." Adrian sat quietly, realizing that she had understood something he had not considered. He had spent years using money as a solution because money was the tool he knew best. But Olivia reminded him that support had to come with respect. Without respect, even generosity could feel like a reminder of inequality. "Then tell me what would make this acceptable," Adrian said. Olivia looked at him carefully. "A chance. Not a favor. A chance to build something." For the first time, Adrian smiled because he finally understood. Olivia was not asking him to change her life. She was asking him to recognize that she had the ability to change it herself. And that was the reason he admired her even more. The black card was never the important part. The important part was the person who had the strength to question it. After the conversation about the black card, something between Adrian Blackwood and Olivia Carter changed. It was not because of the gift itself. The card was only a symbol. What truly changed was the understanding that grew between two people who came from completely different worlds. Adrian had expected many reactions from Olivia. He thought she might be excited, surprised, or even grateful in a way he had seen many times before. Instead, she had shown him something he rarely encountered: self-respect. She did not reject his kindness because of pride. She questioned it because she wanted the meaning behind it to be genuine. That difference stayed with him. Over the next few days, Adrian worked with his team to understand how he could support Olivia in a way that respected her independence. He did not want to simply give her money and walk away. He wanted to create an opportunity that allowed her own abilities to shine. For the first time, Adrian was not trying to solve a problem. He was trying to open a door. When he returned to the restaurant, he asked Olivia if she would be willing to talk outside during her break. The quiet street nearby was a different world from Adrian's usual surroundings. There were no business meetings, no formal conversations, and no people trying to impress him. Just two people having an honest conversation. "I understand why you hesitated," Adrian said. "I have spent my whole life believing that giving someone something was the same as helping them." Olivia listened carefully. "Sometimes it is," she replied. "But sometimes people need someone to believe in them more than they need someone to fix things for them." Adrian looked at her thoughtfully. Those words revealed exactly why Olivia had earned his respect. She was not waiting for someone to rescue her. She was waiting for someone to recognize her potential. Adrian told her about an opportunity connected to one of his businesses. It was not a simple donation or a favor. It was a chance to develop her ideas and create something of her own. Olivia asked questions. She wanted to understand the responsibilities, the expectations, and what would be required from her. Adrian noticed that she was not interested in receiving an advantage. She was interested in earning a chance. That impressed him more than any acceptance of his generosity could have. Meanwhile, people around Adrian began noticing that he was changing. The man who once measured every interaction by influence and loyalty was beginning to value character and honesty. His employees noticed that he listened more. His decisions became more thoughtful. He started recognizing contributions from people who were usually overlooked. Olivia never asked him to become a different person. She simply reminded him that power meant more when it was used with purpose. One evening, Adrian watched Olivia leave the restaurant after finishing her shift. She walked through the city streets with the same quiet confidence she had always shown. She still worked hard. She still treated people with kindness. She still carried herself with dignity. The difference was that now Adrian saw what others had missed. Olivia was never someone who needed to be saved. She was someone who deserved to be seen. And for Adrian Blackwood, that realization became the beginning of a completely different way of living. The opportunity Adrian Blackwood offered Olivia Carter became something neither of them expected. At first, Olivia believed it was simply a professional chance. She approached it carefully, asking questions, learning every detail, and making sure she understood what was expected of her. She did not want her success to come from someone opening a door for her. She wanted to prove that she could walk through that door on her own. Adrian respected that more than anything. He had spent years surrounded by people who accepted opportunities without questioning the responsibility that came with them. Olivia was different. She understood that every opportunity carried value because of the effort required to earn it. Over the following months, Adrian watched Olivia grow. She brought the same dedication to her new responsibilities that she had shown as a waitress. She arrived prepared, listened carefully, and treated every person around her with respect. She did not change because she was now working closer to powerful people. Her success did not make her look down on those who were still where she had once been. In fact, she continued encouraging others who felt overlooked. Adrian noticed something important. Olivia's greatest strength had never been her ability to impress people. It was her ability to make people feel valued. That quality slowly influenced everyone around her. Employees who once stayed silent began sharing their ideas. People who were usually ignored started feeling respected. Adrian's organization began changing, not because of new rules or strategies, but because one person reminded everyone that character mattered. One evening, Adrian and Olivia walked through the company's main office after a long day. The building was quiet, with only the soft lights illuminating the empty halls. Adrian looked around and realized how different his environment felt compared to before. He had once believed success meant creating distance between himself and others. Now he understood that true leadership came from connection. "You know what surprises me?" Adrian said. Olivia looked at him. "What? You never changed after everything that happened." Olivia smiled slightly. "Why would I?" Adrian paused. It was a simple answer, but it carried a powerful meaning. Olivia had never measured herself by the opinions of others. She already knew her value before anyone else recognized it. That was something Adrian had spent years trying to achieve through influence and reputation. He finally understood that confidence did not come from people knowing your name. It came from knowing who you were when nobody was watching. Meanwhile, the people who once underestimated Olivia began seeing her differently. The woman they once overlooked became someone they respected, not because of the opportunity she received, but because of what she did with it. Adrian realized the black card he had given her was never the most valuable thing. The real gift was the chance for the world to finally see what had always been there. As the city lights shined outside the office windows, Adrian thought about the person he had been before meeting Olivia. He had believed power was the ability to change other people's lives. But Olivia showed him something deeper. Power meant very little if it was not guided by compassion. And for the first time in many years, Adrian Blackwood felt that he was not simply building a powerful life. He was building a meaningful one. Years after the moment that changed everything, Adrian Blackwood still remembered the simple question that started his transformation. He had asked Olivia Carter what she wanted most, expecting an answer connected to money, success, or a better position in life. Instead, she had given him something far more valuable. She had shown him that a person's greatest desires were not always about gaining more. Sometimes, they were about protecting what already mattered. Adrian had spent most of his life surrounded by people who saw his power before they saw his humanity. Olivia had been the first person in years to look beyond his reputation and treat him like an ordinary person. That was why he never forgot her. The black card that arrived at Olivia's door was never meant to change who she was. It was never meant to create a debt between them. It was simply Adrian's way of showing respect to someone who had earned it without ever asking for recognition. Olivia had proven that kindness did not come from having less. It came from understanding the value of every person. Over time, Adrian's world began to change. The man who once believed every problem could be solved through influence started listening more carefully. He became someone who asked questions before making decisions. He started noticing the people who worked quietly behind the scenes and giving them the appreciation they deserved. The difference was visible to everyone around him. But the person who noticed the change most was Olivia. She saw that Adrian was no longer trying to control every situation. He was learning to trust. One evening, Adrian and Olivia returned to the restaurant where they first met. The same place where a simple conversation had changed the direction of two lives. The lights were warm. The tables were filled with familiar sounds. And for a moment, everything felt exactly as it had before. Adrian looked around and smiled. "Do you remember the question I asked you that night?" he said. Olivia smiled back. "I remember. I thought I was offering you an opportunity," Adrian said. "But you were the one who gave me something." Olivia looked at him quietly. "What did I give you?" Adrian answered honestly. "A reason to see people differently." The moment was simple, but it represented everything they had learned. Olivia never needed wealth to prove her worth. Adrian never needed power to prove his importance. They had both discovered something that many people spend their entire lives searching for. Respect cannot be demanded, trust cannot be purchased, and genuine kindness cannot be measured by what someone owns. The world had once seen Olivia as just another waitress working behind the scenes. But Adrian saw the person she had always been, someone with strength, compassion, and dignity. The world had once seen Adrian only as a powerful man with influence. But Olivia helped reveal the person behind the reputation, someone capable of growth, humility, and understanding. Their story was never about a card or a gift. It was about the moment one person finally saw another person clearly. And that day, the world remembered that true value is not found in what people can give you. It is found in the respect they choose to show when nobody is watching.